Today we're going to talk a little bit about ordering fractions on a number line. This allows us to compare them and think about how they relate to the whole number 1 and 0 and each other. So if we have our number line, the first thing that we want to do is label what we call our benchmarks. And when I say our benchmarks, I mean the important fractions that we can have in the middle of the number line between 0 and 1 that help us to figure out where a fraction should be properly placed. So we know, obviously, we're going to start with our half. So we've got 1/2 and 2/2. Now we're going to also think about placing our fractions of the fourths in our number line. So I know that our fourth is going to be right here, 1/4. And here, obviously, 1/2 is the same as 2/4. And then here I have 3/4. All right, and then the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to be placing our thirds fractions. And our third goes here between 1/4 and 1/2. And 2/3 goes right here. Now I've divided up my number line into thirds. So there's 1/3, 2/3, and 3/3. And I can take my same number line and divide it into fourths. So there's 1/4 and 2/4 and 3/4. And there's my 4/4. And then last but not least, I have my number line also divided into halves. Here's 1/2 and 2/2. Okay, and so now those are going to be helpful for me for figuring out where my number line needs to go. So now let's say I want to place a fraction on my number line. So let's say I have the fraction 5/8. Okay, and that's a fraction that I want to place on my number line. So what I'm going to do is, first what I need to think about is when I'm working with fractions with the denominator 8, I know that 0 is 0/8, because remember I'm using my denominator here of 8 so I can properly place 5/8. So I know that 0 is 0/8. I know that 1 is 8/8. And I know that half is 4/8. So I know that 5/8 is going to fall somewhere within this area, because I also have to fit in here. Not only am I fitting 5/8 in here, I have 5/8 in here, 6/8, and 6/8, and 7/8. So those fractions have to fit in there somewhere. And so what I need to do, though, is I need to figure out, since I'm trying to evenly place this one, this one, this one, and this one, this is the one 5/8 is the one I'm worried about. I want to see, since I figure out it's probably going to go somewhere in this area, I'm going to compare it to 2/3 to see if it's larger than, if it's going to go on this side of 2/3, or if it's going to go on this side of 2/3. Okay? And so the way that I do that is cross multiplication. So I had 5/8 and 2/3. And I want to decide which one is larger. And so the way that I do that is by that cross multiplication. So 5 times 3 is 15. And then I'm going to do 8 times 2, which is 16. So 2/3 is actually a larger fraction, and 5/8 is just a bit smaller from that. So I'm going to go back now to my number line, and I know that 5/8 is going to fall just about right in here. Okay, because we said on that previous slide that 2/3 is just a bit bigger than 5/8. So 5/8 is going to go right there on my number line. Okay? Okay, so now we're going to take the fraction 2/9 and we're going to decide where it needs to go on the number line. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to think about this number line as 0. Let me backtrack here. Since I have 2/9, I want to think about my number line as ninths. And so my 0 is the same as 0/9, and my 1 is the same as 9/9. So I want to decide, first of all, also, what would be my halfway point between 0 and 9. And I know 9 split in half, it can't be split in half evenly, and I'm going to end up with a remainder when I divide 9 into two pieces. And so I know that about half of 9 is 4.5, or 4.5. Well, I have 2, and so 2 is obviously going to fall somewhere between 0 and 4, somewhere in this region of the number line right here. Okay, so I know that in this number line I need to fit in 0/9, 1/9, 2/9, 3/9, and 4/9. Okay, so I need to decide kind of where it's at. Obviously it's going to be maybe less than 1/4, but I also know 1/8 is in here too, because it's half of 1/8. Half of 1/4 is 1/8. So I need to decide if it's bigger than or less than 1/8 and 1/4. Okay, so I'm going to compare my fraction of 2/9 to 1/8. All right, so we're going to do that over here. 1/8, 2/9. We're going to do our cross multiplication. 1 times 9 is 9. 8 times 2 is 16. So 2/9 is bigger than 1/8. So let's go back to our number line, and I know that it's going to be right around in here where 2/9 is going to be. So 2/9, right in there. Okay? So your goals are, if you go back and review, what we want to do is we want to look at our number line. Let me fast forward. We're going to look at our number line. We want to first place our benchmarks: 0, 1, 1/2, 1/4, and 3/4. And then I want to place my thirds. I've got my 1/3, and I've got my 2/3. And I'm going to take my fraction, whatever fraction that might be. Let's say in this case, maybe it's 3, let's say 3/11. And so I'm going to think of my fraction, my numbers on my number line, as 11ths. So here I have 0/11. Here I have 11/11. And half of 11 is going to be about 5.5. I can even put that over 11 to make me think about that. So that means then, since I'm working with 3, it's going to fall in this half of the number line. So now I'm going to start doing some comparisons and thinking about the numbers that will work in there. I know that I need to be able to fit 1/11, and 2/11, and 3/11, and 4/11, and 5/11 over here on this part of the number line. So I need to start comparing. 3/11, I'm going to see if it's bigger or smaller than 1/4. So we're going to compare using cross multiplication. 3/11 was the fraction that I was working with. I want to see if it's bigger or smaller than 1/4. So cross multiply. 3 times 4 is going to give me 12. 11 times 1 is going to give me 11, so I know 3/11 is actually larger than 1/4. So I'm going back here, and I know that on my number line, 3/11 is going to be just a little bit larger than 1/4. All right, good luck.